We're here with Michael Alexander, whose new book, On the Wing of Eternity, is about his father during World War II. And I'm just curious as to what made you decide to write it, having all this information about his early life.
Well, it had to start with finding a trunk in the attic that, you know, when you're old enough, you get time to go and look inside it. And what I found were, a ton of letters going right back through his life that he had written and others had written to him, and his diaries. And when I started to read some of them, and now had time to do that, I found a story that I never heard, and that was the story of his life, but particularly the part growing up during the Depression, and then training for the military, going to military academy, playing hockey against West Point. And then as the war came, deciding to go into the Air Force. He went into the Royal Air Force. His father had been in the British and Canadian Army, and then went overseas. And I love that part of history anyway, so that got me heavily into it. Then it was a question of what to do with this.
Was he the same person at the beginning of the book as the process, as the end of the process for you?
Of course, but I didn't know that. And so one of the things that connects through a life like this, and it's true of all of us, is that what we're faced with as we grow older, especially the really tough things, bring us back to how we grew up and where we grew up and what the values are that we have, and how we are prepared to deal with that. And that really was a strong reason why this thing had to kind of come together as some kind of a story.
Putting it together in a narrative is not an easy process. So you said 4 years while doing other things as well. But
well, I think if I knew I was going to write a book and it had this outcome, I might have been more focused on getting to the end of it. But I didn't know really what I was going to end up with. And so I started and sort of found my way with lots of help from friends and family, but it kind of emerged into what it is now. That's not the way. I couldn't have predicted this from the beginning.
Did all the facts and history jive together with as you sort of put them together with letters and things like that, or were there questions that you still have?
It's based. The book is based on fact and his letters. It's in his voice, and that was not difficult because basically he wrote a lot of it. But what isn't in there is what was going on around him at the time. And so I did a lot of research. I read the London newspapers for a year and a half every day. I didn't read them every day. I read daily newspapers in order to understand how the British, what they'd be saying, what he would know, what he'd be paying attention to, because this wasn't always in his letters. And so I had to sort of build that part around it, otherwise the reader wouldn't know either.
Is it still amazing to you how much of a lifetime he had in that short time?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a message that, life isn't about how long it is, it's about what you've got in it. And he packed that, not intentionally, although he was prepared for it, but what he went through is like incredible in a year and a half, or almost 2 years of war. And also in his preparation for that through his life as a kid.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate
Thank
it. That's great. Great. I'm here with Erin and Dusty Stanczyk, who are local authors and YouTubers who are here to show their new cookbook. And tell us a little bit about how you got to Florida, first of all.
Yeah. We've been doing retreats because the YouTube channel kind of took off. We had been doing retreats in Costa Rica. Loved, you know, obviously the weather, the jungle, the tropical fruit. And we had our son Max at the time, another one came along. Now we've got 3, and we were like, you know, as much as we'd love to move to a place like Costa Rica, Amazon Prime, getting diapers, like what if we could stay in the States? Florida was our next best option, so we came and we haven't left yet.
Well, there are a lot of people who go back and forth to Costa Rica.
Right,
Here, so
It's an easy jump.
kind of close. And the climate there is very, very close things.
Yeah.
What, from y'all's work, what made you decide to do a book version of it? Because a lot of people don't make that jump.
Right.
I think just our artistic tendencies and just wanting to showcase all of the colorful vibrancy that comes with a whole food plant-based diet and just encapsulate it into something like a beautiful coffee table work of art that's a conversation piece or on your kitchen countertop. And
Do you find it's reaching people that don't necessarily catch internet video?
For sure.
Absolutely, definitely.
We've got a lot of older followers because again, it's about health and wellness, right? And unfortunately, most people don't catch on to the health aspect until they're older. So it's like, I'm not on YouTube, but I found your cookbook and this is perfect for me.
The photography is absolutely spectacular. Tell me a little bit about how you all made the decisions there. Does Harper help with that too, I hope?
Honestly, they saw our work. We had a senior editor of HarperCollins who was an avid follower of our channel and our work, and she said, love what you guys are doing. We want you guys to tackle this project yourselves. So we made every single recipe. We had our kids were our tiny taste testers. You can see their hands in the photos, a little bit imperfect, I guess you would say, but we ended up really loving the way it turned out. Getting to, do it as a family and enjoy all the meals.
So I'm looking here like holographs. It's hard to make that look appetizing, at least for me. Non-plant. I mean, is that something that you all did, or is that?
We did it. Erin is the food. She's the creator, and again, we never planned on eating this way, but the food, it looks good, it tastes good, we have fun with it, and believe it or not, they're all our recipes and all of our own photos.
And so Nebraska to here, are you able to eat it even better here, or are you able to get started there?
We did it.
Surprisingly, it's about the same.
It's about the same?
Yep.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to have Whole Foods and everything back home, and as long as you get good groceries, we can make it happen. And that was part of it too. We wanted to make it accessible for anybody. So whether you're in North Dakota or Nebraska or Canada, we have a lot of Canadian followers, believe it or not. And we're like, hey, you can find most of this food at any grocery store, and that's been a big thing for people too.
For a non-plant-based person that's jumping into this, what would be 1 or 2 recipes in here that you'd say to get started with?
I think like our lentil bolognese is a great one, and we have a lot of our date night favorites. We really love Indian cuisine and Thai cuisine, and come to find out, most of it is vegan or vegetarian already, and we just don't realize it. And just swapping things like chicken for tofu and the right seasonings.
The green smoothie too.
The green smoothie, that was a great picture.
Start your day with the green smoothie. It's easy, it's sweet, it's a salad in a glass, but it doesn't taste like it, and that'll transform your health quickly.
I'm in the ginger.
There you go. That's a tough one.
That's definitely not a beginner friendly one.
All right. Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here with Julie Horning, whose book B is for Boca Grande has been in every shop and in every basket heading off this island with children and grandchildren as well to teach the history. Tell me how you decided that you needed to actually do this, and then how you decided once you thought you needed to do this, you actually did it.
So we're new grandparents, and when I was looking for a children's book about Boca Grande, I couldn't find one. So So basically it was a problem I needed to solve, and I decided I was going to be the one to solve it and write a children's book, and specifically an alphabet children's book. I just decided I'm going to do this. And something that I did, I joined a coaching program, and basically what I did is I just decided to write 15 minutes a day, and to kind of make it less overwhelming.
Right.
And that's how I got started. Made a list of local places on Boca Grande that started with each letter, and also things that were specific to Florida and specific to Boca Grande. So that's how I did it. Yeah.
And the monkey as a central narrator.
Chico.
Yes.
Well, Chico is an actual historical figure from Boca Grande. He was Sam Whidden's pet monkey. And so as I was doing research about Boca Grande and Boca Grande history, I found Chico and decided that would be a cute way to tell the story of Boca Grande through Chico's eyes. So Chico is hidden in most of the pages on the book.
Well, of the illustrations, tell me how you got Noah.
Noah, yeah. So this is an interesting story. I was in a children's bookstore and found a beautiful book illustrated by Tim Warrens, who is a very well-known illustrator. And so I decided I was going to email him. And he did get back to me, but he basically told me that he didn't say you're not big enough, but he said I only work with big publishing houses. But my son is very talented, and maybe he would be willing to work with you. And so he gave me Noah's contact info, and I emailed him, and we started working together. And he was perfect for the book.
And I probably changed a little bit of the perspective of what you were going to do with you knew what sort of the photos. Tell me about that.
You mean the perspective?
Yeah, well, you've
what I
written it,
have in the
and
book?
then you have to illustrate it, and they all jive together.
Well, the thing about Noah is he's really talented about capturing the essence of what you're writing about,
Right.
and I noticed that with looking at his other books. So he did a beautiful job of capturing the essence of Boca Grande without ever being here. He lives in England, so he's never been here. And he did a beautiful job.
And you tell me about your device of each letter.
Oh yeah, so it's so hard when you start going down the history of Boca Grande, trying to figure out, like, for instance, what are we on, J? I wanted to do something that was kind of like an animal or something indicative of Florida, but then also wanted to do something historical. And I couldn't decide, what am I going to do? And I decided to do both. So for instance, for L is for loggerhead turtle. We have turtles on the island, and I wanted to talk about that. But then I also wanted to talk about the lighthouses on Boca Grande, because that's really central to what makes Boca Grande special. There are 2 lighthouses on the island. So I decided to do just a basic, like, kind of animal or sea creature, and then do a local treasure, which we have here, a local treasure, something historical or specific to Boca Grande.
And is Chico going to visit any other places?
Well, Chico actually is involved in another children's book.
That's what I was curious about, because he's very adventurous.
Yes, he's very adventurous, and he's interested in some sports right now. So, and he has some other animal friends that might be joining him in his next book. So he's actually, Chico was a girl monkey. Oh. But we always say he because it kind of feels like Chico is more of a he, but historically Chico was a she.
Yeah, I don't think you want a boy monkey around, do you? If you got a pet.
Absolutely, yeah. So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Thank you.
You won't miss this
It's
anywhere
been a true honor. It's been a true honor to be able to write about Boca Grande and learn about the history. And I also wanted to say thank you to the Boca Grande Historical Society, Betsy Joyner, for helping me just make sure that I got the facts correct about the historical piece. That was really important to me. So thank you.
Hey,
Thanks so much for having me. Thank you.
I'm here with Island author Kathy Auman, who has a series of books, and the first one was The Secret Bully Patrol. Tell me what made you take the step to doing this book.
Well, through my own experiences in school and watching my children, what they went through, and then I raised 2 grandchildren, I saw that things have not changed very much as far as the bullying goes, and it's just the same. And thought maybe we could shed some light and maybe get some help for these kids. And it's not just the targets of the bullies, it's also the bullies.
Right.
They also need help, and hopefully we can reach out and take care of some of this.
Yeah, this went from 1 to 6, is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. Once I got started, I couldn't stop. Yeah, but it goes from, they start in middle school and they join a martial arts class in the summer. And how it started was when they went back to school, they decided to put it to good use and form the bully patrol, and that's how it all started. And it goes from the first book, and the 6th book is when they graduate high school.
And how did you get to 6?
It just happened.
Yeah.
When you start writing, you just don't know when to stop sometimes, you know.
Yeah. Did you write other things growing up?
No,
No?
this is my first.
You just, there we go.
Yeah.
And then, tell us about the support for you as a writer on this island.
Oh, it's been tremendous. I have them at my cash register where I work at Hudson's, and people have been buying them and sending them through to their grandchildren all over the country. I even have a set of books in Japan. One of the customers' daughter teaches English in Japan and sent the books to her.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are you still surprised it's still an issue these days, or are you human nature
No,
such that-
I think it's because everybody is used to this. Everybody has, it's been happening for so long that it's on the back burner a lot of times, and it needs to be brought to the surface, and the help needs to be, the kids that need help need to know that there's help out there. And it's not just the targets of the boys themselves. There's examples in the books that there's 2 boys that were bullies, and they wind up turning their life around. And, you know, it can happen. And I wanted to show these kids that you're not alone. There's much help out there. All you need to do is ask.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much
Oh,
for
you're
doing
welcome.
this. I appreciate you being on here this day.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. See all these people are my customers.
That's great.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
All right, I am here with Alice Gorman. A lot of people here know on the island that she's a poet as well, but you've written a lot of things in your life as well, and you come from a literary family, from a newspaper family, correct?
No, that is not.
That is not correct.
Sorry, no. I've been asked that many
Many times?
Yes. I'm not even a Bingham.
Oh!
That was my husband.
That was your husband.
Yeah.
That was your husband. That's we used to set that part of the world. Tell me what made you decide to. This is the hardest part of writing. I would, as a person who writes a lot, is poetry and getting poetry published and making it to your satisfaction. How did you decide that was what you were going to start with?
But you know, I started writing poetry when I was a child. And in the 5th grade, 6th grade, one of my teachers told my mother that I was a real poet. And of course I had no idea what she was talking about. I just wrote. Yeah. But I've loved poetry always. I mean, Emily Dickinson and poets that speak from the heart. So this little poetry book is a culmination of my life, really. It begins when I'm age 4, not writing, but experiencing, and goes well up into my 80s. So I feel like what poetry does is give you attention to every single word, which is actually important when you're writing a novel too.
Yes.
But it's compression, it's succinct thought, and it forces you to be very careful about what you're writing.
Are there some difficult thoughts in there that you have to confront about yourself when you do it?
Right.
That's why I can't do it.
Well, you know, somehow I think poetry is a gift.
Right.
You know, I can't force it.
Right.
It will come to me as an idea, and if I don't write it down, like wake up in the night and have a little pad
Yes.
by my bed, I may never think of it again. So it's not something I can force, ever. It just is a gift.
Putting all this together into one book, how do you make decisions about what goes together into one? Especially, I didn't realize you had been doing this for such a long time.
Well, in this particular instance, I put together a manuscript and I sent it to Sina Naslund, who started my graduate school, and said, I'd love for you to look at this and see if you think it has potential to possibly be published. And I didn't hear from her. And I thought, I always assume if I don't hear from somebody, they don't like it. And on Thanksgiving Day, I got the most beautiful note. She said, I love your poems. I would not change a word, and I want to publish it. So Fleur de Lis Press, which she also started, published the book. And they didn't change a single poem or a single word.
Is there a favorite one that you've got in this, or are they all?
Well, in a way, they're like children. So,
Yeah. Oh, you can't. Yeah.
you can't pick out one. I think maybe at the very end, Credo is as important as any of the poems. It speaks to my whole sort of philosophy of life.
Can I read it?
Oh, I'd love for you to read it.
I am resilient as a tree, yet vulnerable as a reed. The energy of my spirit formed before I was born will live forever when I am gone. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me read it in front of you.
Thank you. It sounds good coming from you.
Oh, it's fun to do. It's fun to do. Thank you so much. And I should give a plug actually to the
Well, and the novel is interesting because it is fiction, but it's also quite autobiographical. And they say that any first novel is always autobiographical.
That's got to be tough to write, though.
Well, and it was, because there's a lot of tough stuff in this book, and there's also a lot of thoughtful stuff. There's some theology in there, and if I had it all to write again, I might write it a little differently. But this is my first novel.
That's all right. You got to get it out, and you got it out. Actually, the next thing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Carl.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm here with Island author Fred Rich. He's actually published 3 books: Escape from Extinction, 2 nonfiction, and then Getting to Green as well. So tell me a little bit about what was your first book that you put out?
Well, Christian Nation was written in 2013, and it had its origins in 2008 when Sarah Palin was nominated by John McCain to be vice president, which caused me to dive into the then obscure world of Christian nationalism, which at the time was a sort of very fringy sect, but it was very clear what their plan was for America. And nobody was sort of taking it seriously. There have been a lot of nonfiction books written. Nobody was reading them. So I thought, well, I'll try a novel. I mean, a novel that is a dystopian political novel that's also a fictional memoir. So in the book, the narrator is in the future, i.e. now.
2020.
Looking back, and it's a novel that's based on a counterfactual form, which is a sort of traditional form in this genre, which is everything before a certain event is historically true, and then the counterfactual occurs, and then you see what happens after that. And so in mine, the counterfactual is McCain, Palin win the 2008 election, not Obama, and it then goes forward from there. And so it's I'm very obviously devastated that it's come true, but it's coming true.
Well, I thought it had published this year.
Yeah.
So, and I thought it was a nonfiction.
Yeah, no, it's fiction. That's that. And that it was a difficult book. I mean, it there were a few people who praised it. It was praised from a literary perspective, but everybody saw I was nuts. He's overacting.
Right.
It could never happen here. In fact, you'll see that the subtitle is "It Could Happen Here," and that's a reference to Sinclair Lewis's book of that title, "It Could Happen Here," about the rise of American fascism in the 1930s.
How did you go from this to an actual, here's what I think, here's what needs to be done?
So
Jane Jacobs.
I've been an environmentalist, conservationist my whole life. Been involved in land trusts, and I just had found it bizarre in the extreme that the environment had become this divisive issue.
Right.
I mean, the conservation. I mean, what's more conservative than conservation? It started in America with Teddy Roosevelt, a Republican. Every piece of federal environmental legislation was signed by Richard Nixon and supported by 100% of the Republican senators. I mean, and to go from there, right, to a place, and there's always been a debate over what's the right solution, right? One's a little more regulatory, one's a little more market-oriented. That's, that's normal. But this idea that, we had half the country starting to deny that the problems existed. So this was sort of a rallying cry. It said to the movement, the big NGOs, you have to make yourselves a home for conservatives. You have to bring conservatives and moderates back into this movement. It's not necessarily a welcoming home. You have to do that. And then, of course, it was a rallying cry to conservatives. Get in touch with your values, because your values, tell you to support this movement which you launched.
Right.
And so this book was written at a moment, people don't remember this, in 2016. There were 9 Republican senators who had come out and said, the GOP has to take the lead on climate change.
Right.
We can't, it's kind of, it's the issue of our age, and we can't give it over. And I was all set to go to the Republican convention, and we had, it was going to be a Republican platform about, apply conservative principles to saving the nature. And then, of course, Trump got nominated, and there was no platform. There was no convention, and of course, everything's just gone downhill. So that was that book. I mean, it's still a lot of value. It's still, people read it. I think a lot of conservatives love to read it because it reminds them of what conservative leadership used to look like.
Right.
And I, I'm not a partisan. I really, not one way or the other at all. But I'm committed to conservation,
right.
And that was my effort to sort of move that forward. And the reason I was qualified to write it is it was also this thing of two sides. I had been on boards of many important environmental organizations, but professionally, I also represented big companies involved in the resources world.
Right.
So I mean, I had kind of credentials on both sides,
right.
And it sort of enabled me to be very even-handed and I think rational. And
as an attorney, did they listen to you more once you had written the book?
It was already the beginnings of which team are you on. I'm only going to listen to you if I'm on my team. But I'll tell you, this book was on. I was one of the featured books on PBS NewsHour. PBS NewsHour picks. And that was I got a huge response. I mean, people, as opposed to politicians,
right.
loved the book. I mean, PBS loved it because it was so even-handed and sort of two-sided. And I was on a 5-week book tour. The last stop was in Minneapolis. It was on a snowy night. There were 500 people, for a book talk.
Right.
So I mean, it hit a nerve, and a lot of that history of the environmental movement, people don't know today. So when they heard it, they really found it fascinating. It sort of helped them reposition environmental issues in their minds. So I don't regret having written it, and I think it'll have its day again, hopefully.
I mean, it is the hardest thing to write because you have to make a convincing argument and you have to sell it as a book, I guess.
Yeah, and the book is, I mean, it's nonfiction, so it's not a story. I mean, the other 2 books are fiction, and they deal with serious topics, but they use fiction to get people to engage, which is a perfect segue to the 3rd book, which I'll briefly just say, because talk about a topic that people find hard to deal with. It's about CRISPR and genetic editing, right? Okay, people are vaguely aware that there's these advances in genetic editing and that somehow we can edit DNA now, but they don't quite know what it means. The majority of which would never read a nonfiction book, of which there are many. There's terrific journalism on the subject. People don't read that either. And I wanted to tell a whopping story that's really a page-turner that will, take them through the whole book. They incidentally learn about genetic editing and why it's so important. And the main thing is they come to understand that it presents these enormous moral quandaries. And, I mean, the way to think of this is that, for 2 billion years, life on Earth was random mutation followed by natural selection. That's why life is the way it is everywhere. From this point forward, life on Earth will be what human beings decide they wish it to be. Now that's the biggest thing really that's ever happened on the planet, which then causes you to ask, do we have the wisdom, and the moral center to exercise that power? It's not didactic. I'm not saying we don't, but I'm telling a story that illustrates.
I'm not sure we don't, but
it illustrates the complexity of the issues and how profound they are. And it's fun, and it's a fun read. Yeah.
Does the speed of all of the things that are happening each year surprise you, even as a person who's put this in time? No, because in the biotech world, things are kind of pretty much moving on the predicted pace. Right.
The public attention has lagged. I mean, most people don't know that we already have brought back one extinct animal from extinction. Most people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, okay.
What animal was it?
This was a European mountain goat, species of European mountain goat. It's not.
I want to see that goat.
Well, of course, he's dead. He's dead.
Oh, he's dead. Okay.
But they're working on bringing back the woolly mammoth. And this is not a fantasy. The head of the genetics lab at Harvard said he could bring back a Neanderthal for $30 million, which is nothing. And then,
I don't want people to do that, but I do want to see them.
Yeah. Well, of course we want to see them. And actually, I'll give you a little teaser for this book. The book deals with the mystery of Neanderthal extinction. Why did we, as opposed to they, inherit the Earth? And the answer is not, let's say, flattering to Homo sapiens. And there is an issue as to whether the planet might in fact be better off if there was another sentient species that we were cohabiting with. And I'll leave it at there. We'll just say that Neanderthals were, there's good reason to think that they were unable to lie. Among the great apes, certain of the great apes genetically are able to engage in deception in certain ways. It's a genetic trait. People don't know that. Right? It's like gorillas can, chimps can't.
Yeah, okay.
And so, one thing we know is that humanity are the best liars, who've ever been invented. All our origin myths, the Pandora's box, all have deception as the essential character in the origin of the species. And so, anyway, the book is sort of optimistic in that sense that maybe, and of course, as you know, about a third of well, more than that, but in North America, about a third of the North American species that were here when humans arrived from down through Alaska were killed by us. And this book also, that's why it's called an ecogenetic novel, because a tech billionaire is also engaged in repopulating a part of the Pacific Northwest with other extinct species for environmental reasons. It's
good stuff. Very timely. Very timely. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. You're
Great.
welcome. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Good.
Great. I'm here with author Linda Fairstein, who's one of the best-known authors here on this island as well. And you've also been known as a very supportive person to other writers as well on this island.
Oh, nice to hear that. Something I wanted to do all my life, so I love to engage with people who have the same aspirations and dreams.
So you're back in the writing game?
Back in the game and hard at work. If I wasn't here on this beautiful day supporting the library, I would be at my keyboard.
What's your routine?
My routine, I'm a morning writer. I like to get up, have my coffee, read some news, and then get right at it while I am freshest. I don't have a word limit, or I just try to move my story along and write for as long as I can, take a break for a walk on a beautiful Boca Grande day, and come back, keep going, break for a light lunch. And if I can write till 3 or 4 in the afternoon, that's great. Then usually the the headache starts or the eyes tell you get a little blurry and tell you enough already, and I stop.
As a person who has made a career change into this kind of writing, have you exercised all those demons that you went through? I shouldn't say demons, but
Right.
all that hard stuff that you had to deal with
Well,
as a process.
I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I've exercised a lot of them.
Yeah.
It was hard stuff, but it was such a rewarding job
Yeah.
because trying to get the victim, to a better place and
Right.
perhaps achieve justice. It had much more rewards than the downside, but people always think, what a dark
Yes.
world. So part of my goal in writing these books was to expose how interesting I found it and what the rewards are and
Right.
were. So
Right.
it's fun to write about something that I know so well and lived.
Of all the books, do the stories and people contacting you as well come back, and do they all live separately, or they just all live in a big career together?
Okay, I don't understand.
You've done a lot of books about
Yes.
a lot of cases,
Yes.
and a lot of people on there have read these and know these stories and things like that. Are they still fresh in some people's minds?
Some of them are. I mean, I fictionalize. I
Yeah.
never take an exact
Right,
case, of course, and I don't use names or real identities. But many of the cases, and not all mine. I mean, some
Yeah.
were colleagues of mine in the office who just had interesting cases with fascinating issues, and we were really the first office to try to use DNA
Right.
before we could get it approved in the courts. I was slapped down repeatedly in a high-profile murder case by a judge who said this will never work, and so then being able to use it and how that changed the work we did, just a lot of exciting
Yeah.
things to portray.
Do you feel hopeful about it?
Oh, very,
Yeah.
very. I mean, when I started prosecuting,
Yeah.
1972.
Oh, New York.
Yeah,
Oh.
well, New York, the country. I mean, the laws were so archaic
Right.
that victims of sexual violence
Right.
couldn't get into a courtroom without extra evidence. It's called
See, we don't
corroboration.
even know that now.
No, you don't even remember. And now kids get out of law school and they think, well, DNA solves everything. I mean,
Right.
we didn't have DNA to use for the first half of my legal career. And it doesn't solve everything. It solves a lot, but sometimes you don't have any at the scene. So, yeah, it's just changed a lot, and it's interesting to me and fun. I don't mean minimizing anybody's experience, but fun to portray things that I worked through.
Right. And has the change in the technology and all of the fields, since you've not been in it, what do you do research now fresh with, or how do you approach these subjects now to write fresh about them?
I remain very, very close. I still have done and do occasionally consulting
Yeah.
in my field. And after I left the office, I have a large pod of young lawyers that I trained and watch come up. Some are judges now, some are defense attorneys, some are still prosecutors. I always went back to court to watch what happened, stay very current with the forensic changes. Now the book I'm writing currently, which is a crime novel also, has artificial intelligence as a theme. I think it's impossible to write today, not literary fiction, but
Right.
the crime genre without some nod inclusion
Right.
of AI. So I'm learning a lot about it as I try to make it part of the plot.
I know technology changes and crime rates go up and down. Do people change?
Ooh,
Does
great
humanity
question.
change?
I think that people, the types of people who probably become characters in
Yes.
books like these don't change. I mean, there are just always people who, for some reason, evil lives within them, or they're attracted to doing bad things. I wish there were fewer of those people, but they seem to repopulate the planet when regularly. I'd love to read about a day that there's no crime. I feel very fortunate to live in a place like Boca Grande, where we don't have the kind of violence that I saw every day in New York. I mean, literally every day. So it's very refreshing for me to be here, and I wish that people changed, but same problems we've always had.
Right. And tell me about your relationship with the library as well.
So my husband has come to this island for a very long time to fish. My first trip was 2014. I was doing a fundraiser for the Naples Library with my books, and good friends here said, bring Linda, you've got to bring her here. I fell in love with the island. And when we made this our permanent residence in 2019, I was in a book club, and I mean, I couldn't live in a place without a library and a good bookstore, and we have both of those. So I was invited to speak at this library before we ever moved here.
Oh, I didn't.
I was the keynote speaker, like Michael Connolly. 2016, I think it was. And so I fell in love with the library then, and was fortunate enough to be invited onto the board. Before I was helping them get speakers from among my writer friends, really all over the country. It's a very collegial world when you're writing books and trying to sell them.
That's great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for covering this.
Oh my gosh.
And, yeah.
Yeah, we're here with Candy Hooper, and we have her two books here. The first one, Lincoln's General's Wives, and the second one, Delivered Under Fire. And you're a local writer and a national writer as well, but you picked the hardest genre, I think, to write about, which is actual history, where you have to do a lot of work. What made you decide, okay, I need to start with this and I'm going to put it down into a book?
Well, growing up, I loved to read Nancy Drew stories, and so that's detective stories.
Yeah.
And so the notion of writing history to me is detective work. You're always looking for something. You're trying to sift through a lot of evidence. But actually, when I was 55 years old, I decided I was going to go back to school and get a degree in a master's degree in history, military history. And when I got that degree, I thought, well, I'll write an article for a journal about the women who went to see Lincoln to ask for help for their husbands during the Civil War. And one of my friends said, when I was explaining to them what I knew about it at that point, they said, well, that's not an article, that's a book. You have to write a book. So anyway, that's how I started.
How many years was that?
Well, this book, from start to finish, because I did not know what I was doing, was 8 years. And just a lot of research and a lot of writing, and I love to do both of them. I hear authors who don't like research and authors who don't like to write, but I love to do both.
Do you get off track with the research sometimes?
Oh, sure. You start going down these rabbit holes, and it's just amazing. I figured if there had been a really robust internet when I was in college, I never would have graduated because I never would have finished any of my term papers. I'd still be lucky.
Now, I didn't realize that Lincoln was the first postmaster was under Lincoln. Is that right?
Well, no. Actually, the first postmaster was before the United States was founded. The Post Office Department is older than the United States of America, and it was Benjamin Franklin. Although some people say that Warren was the one who did it, but it was Benjamin Franklin. But this book is about the man who became sort of a de facto postmaster for General Grant.
I see.
And then took over as Grant began winning more and more battles and was given more and more territory to command. That man became essentially General Grant's postmaster. But it was all sort of an informal relationship. And that man was one of the most famous people during the Civil War, because whenever Grant would win a battle when he occupied, let's say, Nashville, which was the capital of Tennessee, and they would say that Absalom Markland, newspapers would report Absalom Markland is the first civilian to enter Nashville after the Union captured it. Then everybody would know that they could get mail. They could send mail to their soldiers. They could get mail in return from their soldiers. And so he was famous, and he was, everywhere he went, the newspapers reported it. And then not long after he died, he became completely forgotten. So by the time I wrote this book, even the most avid Civil War historians weren't really familiar with him. And the only people who really knew who he was were the people in the Smithsonian Postal Museum.
Oh.
They knew who he was, but nobody told his story.
And what was your time arc for putting this one together?
The first one took 8 years. That one took maybe 4.5 years.
Well, you're getting the next ones too, right?
Well, no, I don't think so. Because there wasn't really that much about him available except the newspaper columns. There were only about 25 letters of his letters that were available. And so I had to sort of work around these big gaps in knowledge and try to fill them in other ways.
Right.
Which was the fun part of the detective work.
Are you doing any detective work for another one then?
Yes, I am.
Can you tell us a little bit
Sure.
about it?
I'm writing a biography of Robert Anderson, who was in command at Fort Sumter when the Confederates fired on it and started the Civil War. And he had an amazing history before Fort Sumter, and he was critically important to the war after Fort Sumter. But all anybody seems to know about him are those 5 months where he was the only thing standing between the Confederates and war.
You've also been a very good booster of the whole scene here and the writers here. Tell me a little bit about what it's like being here on the island.
Well, I think for one book notes, I wrote an article about how Boca Grande encourages authors here and how it's a great place to write. And part of that really came from Anne Lindbergh's Gift of the Sea, where she talks about that in very lyrical tones about being by the beach, being by the ocean, having sort of the sameness of beautiful days to do work and not do work. But the thing that is really great about this, as opposed to where she was on Sanibel by herself or with her sister, is that there are so many other writers here. And, between the poets group, the scholars, and the library, you just end up being surrounded by people who are very encouraging, very interested, and that we're all interested in what everybody else is doing. And the library, well, is just the gem, is the beating heart of the island, I think.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm here with Whitney Ransome, who's got her book Why Girls Schools Matter. And before this book came about as a longtime advocate of girls' schools as well. So it's not the traditional route of I'm going to write the great American novel. It's I need to help solve a problem in the United States, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what the coalition was all about when we started back in 1991, was that girls' schools nationwide were really suffering in enrollment and also in a misunderstanding of what they were all about. Right. It was an outdated image of what girls' educations, girls' schools were like. So,
how long was the process of writing the book?
Well, in many ways, the book was in my head for a long time. I had a number of writing courses, and I had done an outline, of what I might write if I ever got around to it. And I had one of my writing teachers saying, "You have got to write this story. It's an origin story. This group, turned the tide in all girls' education." So that was sort of in the back of my mind, because now the group is so big. 500 schools, 14 countries, and as I said, this is an origin story. Place the organization started on the second floor bedroom of my house. I job shared, which was not common back then, and working from home or having a home office wasn't common back then. So I like telling that story too.
And what did it mean to actually get it together in a book format for your?
Well, it was such a new experience. I've done a lot of writing, for my profession and that.
Well, fundraising letters to everybody.
Well, not just fundraising letters, but also work for the coalition. I wrote op-ed pieces and the like. But when the box arrived with my book, I literally had Tom take pictures of me by the box, opening the box, and I said, "Oh my goodness, I did this. It's in print. It's a beautiful book, thanks to my designer." And, but I had, someone jokingly said, "What are you going to write next?" And I said, "I think I ought to write a book called After the Book."
Oh.
And what happened was I was in a rush to get the books done because I had a meeting to go to. And so I opened the box, took out the books, and they fell apart. And I said, "Oh my gosh, how about if everyone at the conference has one that's falling apart?" Well, long story short, I called the printer. He said, "Well, you didn't leave it long enough to dry. The glue hadn't dried yet in the book. That's why it fell apart." But I kept that book. I kept that because once I spoke to a group, I said, there are all these unexpected things that happen to you. And that's why a essay or something called After the Book would be such a good idea.
Well, and even still going forward, the future of girls' schools is still always in peril, isn't it?
No, it's not. That's the misperception.
Thank you for setting me straight.
If you look on, it's now the International Coalition of Girls' Schools. And as I said, I think there are 500 girls' schools within the states. But what excites me the most is that there are a lot of girls' public schools. Charter mainly, but also some local communities have started girls' schools because they felt it was necessary. And when I started in 1991, there were only 2 all-girls public schools left, one in Baltimore and one in Philadelphia. And the coalition, I guess my suggestion, took those schools in at no cost because we knew if they had to go through the public school system, they wouldn't allow them to be belonging to this. But now there are close to 200 all-girls public schools in the state. Many of them charter, but still, good stuff.
It is amazing you had to advocate for something that some of the people thought was kind of a given for so long, but I guess people had forgotten.
Well, I think people had an outdated image of what girls' schools were like. They thought, oh, that's where girls who can't cope go to school. Oh, yes, that's where girls go and pour tea and wear white gloves. And that was far from what girls' schools were like. We just, girls in girls' schools were taking 3 and 4 years of math and science, which is not the case in co-ed schools at the time. Girls in girls' schools really, it's what they, it was more important about what they think than what they, what they wore to school that day. And I was involved in a merger of a girls' school and a boys' school in Miami, and was astounded that the new school, there were no women leaders from the previous school who had positions.
Why were you astounded at that? Why were you astounded at that?
Oh, I wasn't astounded. It just played into part of our pitch that often when those kinds of mergers happen, the girls' school culture disappears, and that was something that I observed, and I said, and I also heard Jill Kirk-Conway speak not long after that. And she articulated why women's colleges were important. And that was just one more coin in the slot of why I realized all girls education was critically important.
Well, thank you so much.
No,
I appreciate it.
thank you.
I'm sorry to put it in such a short amount of time.
That's all right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm here with Lindsay Major, and we are here to talk about her book, Lindsay Hughes Cooper, from 2021, about your aunt.
Yes.
What made you decide, as a layperson writer, this first book, that her life needed to be counted and nailed down?
Well, thank you for asking. A friend of mine, whom I had known for quite a long time, just out of the blue, she said, "Lindsay, your aunt is an iconic figure over at the Nelson Museum." And I was like, ooh. And she said, you should write a book about her. Well, I had never thought of this. It would never have occurred to me. But so I had to let it kind of digest for a while. And then I went over to the Nelson Atkins Museum, which is our beautiful museum there in Kansas City. And I made an appointment with the archivist. And I didn't know how much they might have, but when I got there, there was a long table just filled with bins. They had every letter she had ever written, any memorandum, anything. I mean, it was staggering. And I started researching it. I had a ball doing it. And then, I could have researched, I'd still be researching.
Right.
And then COVID came. I could no longer get into the archive. The museum shut down, so I actually had to sit down and write. And that's how I did it.
It's amazing. And she must have had an effect on you personally.
Well, I actually knew her. I mean, I did have a lot of exposure to her. I was her namesake. But I regret terribly that by the time I started this book, she was gone. I never interviewed her.
Right.
I never asked the questions I would have loved to have asked if she had been there. So in a way, she was a little bit of an unknowable person. In a way, I need to do more research.
But what's some of the characteristics that you do from just personal things that you recall about her?
She was very determined. Her story is that, of course, this was back in the 30s and 40s when she was at the Nelson.
They were all men that did this, right?
Oh, yeah. Women had no status at all, particularly in the museum world. And I just followed her path from doing anything that she was asked to do, like mending of robes, whatever, to becoming a real authority on Asian art. And during World War II, she was the acting curator of the Asian collection there at the Nelson, and that was their most important part of their museum. And then when the men came back, at that point she was 38. She got married, she moved to New York, she worked for a C.T. Liu, who was the most prominent Asian art dealer in the world. And then she ended up back at the Nelson years later when they had this, the archaeological finds of the People's Republic of China. That was an amazing exhibit. That was back in the 70s, and she gave, I don't know how many lectures. She was very, very well spoken, and gave great lectures, wrote beautiful letters, and I'm glad I had an opportunity to get to know her better through the research.
And then since then, I'm sure a lot of people have also been able to come to you and appreciate what you did who didn't know, right?
Well, the Nelson really has been lovely about the book. They've appreciated it, and this cover.
She's a bit of an Annie Mae.
Well, not really.
Not
at
really,
all,
but from that it would make me think.
I found this photograph in the museum director's file. Had her name, but it didn't give any information about what was going on. Well, here's this elaborate, beautiful robe that she was wearing. We don't really know anything more about it, but I thought, oh, what a great picture for the cover of the book. And at the Nelson, they have this on a shelf in the bookshop, and they have got a little picture a little statue of the thinker.
Yeah.
Looking at the book, because she's got that thinker stance. So I thought that was
it's very much
very
of its
darling
time.
of them.
That is very neat. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, darling.
Oh, gosh, great. Thanks. We're here with writer David Sparks at the 75th year. And tell us a little bit about how you went from political consultant and all-around guru to I've got to get these things down in words.
Well, some people draw a connection between political advertising and writing fiction. So I've always written as a part of my work, but always in terms of advertising or memos or strategy papers and things like that. And I knew that I could do it. Also, I wrote a substantial number of op-eds, and so I knew how to, where the 750 word mark was on my computer. So I tried out when I stopped working, I tried out writing a short story about my grandfather's funeral, and I found that I enjoyed it, but also I found that it was entertaining for other people. And so there's always been a side of that for me, and so I wrote my first book 15 years ago, and when you write when you write as an independent author with Amazon or one of the other online print, you better enjoy it, because the chances of you making a living on it aren't very good, especially for someone my age. The publishers aren't interested in 70-year-old white guys. So.
Yeah. And what has it been like to be in the community here?
It's amazing. This library and the library board with the first of all, you've got events like this, which is just sort of unprecedented. I've done lots of trade shows and political type events, and this is amazing to have people stopping by. First of all, the readers. They're not going to stop here. It's not like you're sitting out in the middle of Main Street in Englewood. I mean, you're sitting at the library, and the readers are coming in, and the chances of them buying your book, I don't think I brought enough books. So are pretty good. So you're talking to readers. And the other thing these folks have done is that they put on these writing seminars. And I've been to 3 or 4, and they are amazing in terms of learning new skills. And they bring in professors who are creative writing editors and creative writing teachers, and you spend 2 or 3 days with people who are like-minded. They are an amazing group of supporters here.
Right. Well, it's a hard couple of years to get over the fence with something like this, right?
There's I can't remember the guy's name, but it's a book called Refuse to Be Done, and it's one of the couple of writing books that I've really sort of set aside and I read every now and then. But he has an interesting point, and that is that finish the book in a way that you think it's finished, then spend some time with it, and it always gets better. I mean, you're never going to go change good parts, but you're going to slim it down, and you're going to add more descriptive kinds of things. One of the nicest compliments about this book that I've gotten is how fast it moves along and takes the reader along. In fact, that people can't wait to get up the next day and read it. I mean, those people aren't lying to me. They're my friends. So. And people who say, they couldn't wait to get to the end and see how it ended. So that to me is a mark of a pretty good book.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming over. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Daly Walker. Dr. Walker.
Daly's fine.
Thank you so much for the time. I come from a physician family as well. They never set things down to words. It was always at the dinner table.
Okay.
What made you decide
to write?
To write, yeah.
Right. Well, my mother was an English teacher, so we always had a lot of books in the house, and I was an avid reader and some writing, and then kind of mid-career I decided to write seriously, and took some work at Indiana University in the MFA program there, and I've continued to write ever since. So,
the short stories is a hard thing. There's less and less places to put them.
There are less and less places.
most of my stories have been in like literary reviews that universities publish, and I've had a story in the Atlantic and
That's big.
Esquire and some other places. So, but it's hard to get them published.
Right, right. For being down here in Boca Grande, there's a lot of writers here. Is that a supportive community, or are you still writing?
I still am. I'm an editor of a literary online review. Write for them, a blog and book reviews and things.
Right. Right. And you mentioned, and then one of these is actually the number of physicians that are actually, right, like Ethan Kanin as well.
Ethan Kanin is there are a lot of good physician writers through the years. Walker Percy, Chekhov's,
Oh, I didn't know.
And he was the most famous of all the physician writers, but there have been a lot of them.
Well, you must have a different insight than.
Yeah, I think it actually comes natural that, most physicians are highly trained observers, which I think is an important part of writing stories, and so it comes natural. And it's good material. You're seeing people at a time of great conflict and tension, and those make good stories.
Right, and the detail as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you working on anything medically related or writing, or can you step out of that?
The journal that I'm a fiction editor for is called Intima. It's published by Columbia University, and it's in this narrative medicine movement. I don't know if you're aware of that, but there's a kind of a movement started at Columbia to introduce the humanities into medical curriculum in hopes that by reading and writing, and it makes the healthcare worker more empathetic, and there are studies that show that actually can happen. So a lot of medical schools have writing courses or literature courses now because of this.
Exactly. And tell us a little bit about your first library growing up.
My first library is where I went to kindergarten. I grew up in a little county seat town in Indiana, and the library there was I guess a Carnegie library, probably, and in the basement was kindergarten there, but it was a central part of the town, still there.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
David Parker Allen or David Allen?
Either or. But David, you can just call me David.
Okay. Poetry is the hardest part of writing in terms of getting it published. Probably writing it. What made you take the step?
I'm a songwriter.
Right.
And I had gone down to the Mississippi Delta to research an old blues player named Charlie Patton. And while I was doing that, wrote a batch of songs after that trip. And as I started studying how music, the old blues is put together, the structure of an old blues song, just led me to researching a lot of the old stories that came over into Appalachia and like moved west. And so as I started studying how those were put together, I got into writing poetry and just went down the path.
So you see them as two separate things?
Songs and poetry?
Because I was thinking a lot of songs will work as a poem too.
Oh, absolutely. So in fact, I'm working on an album that's going to be a soundtrack to this book. And a lot of the songs come from the poems that are in the book.
How long did it take you to say, I'm going to select these poems and get them together into one printed volume?
It took me, that was probably over 3 years. Mm-hmm. I had a collection of about 90 poems that then I whittled down to about 40 or so.
Right.
So in terms of how long it took me to write
it,
about 2 to 3 years.
Like I've got this stack of paper.
About 2 to 3 years.
Right.
of material kind of honed down into it.
And they all seem to, there's a lot of water in here.
You've read the
Seaside,
book.
yeah.
You've
Well,
read
I've
some,
certainly
read
read,
some
yeah,
of the book. There is a lot of water in there. From the ocean in the Atlantic to the Mississippi River in the Delta to rivers out west. Yes, there's a lot of water in it.
What's your around here? How often are you around here?
I'm in Boca probably 3-4 months a year. Yeah. In fact, there's obviously some stories about Boca in here too. So in terms of the water here, yes.
Very good. And are you planning a second one, or are you just?
I'm writing all the time.
Right.
So yes, I have another collection that's in the works.
Do you have a group that spurs you on, or?
No. In fact, I'm meeting some of the people here today that are, writers on the island that, so meeting other writers spurs me on, but no, I'm not part of a group.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, appreciate it.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm here with Virginia Hume. Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
You bet, thank you.
We have her previous, and then we have an advanced copy.
Yes.
When?
March 5th, Cinco de Mayo.
Oh,
Has
good.
absolutely nothing to do with Mexico, but that's a handy way to remember when it comes out. So Liberty Island, which is set in the same fictional summer community that was in Haven Point, my debut. So
What is it about Maine?
So it's Liberty Island is the name. Well, it's the name of my book. It's also the name of a book within it, and that's published, fictitious, but published in 1900, a novel for girls that breaks all the rules, meaning it does not teach girls to be docile and domestic and pious and pure. And it's told from the perspective of the aunt who wrote it and her niece who inspired it as a little girl. So it's dual narratives, dual timelines, the aunt's story and the niece's story. And it's about their relationship with the summer community, Haven Point, and this island, their attitudes towards it and how that changes over time. So it's another family saga. Aunts, under-celebrated, I think, in fiction. Aunts and uncles, I think they deserve some love. So
after this, and when you came here, you were very supportive and I did not get to attend the lecture, but my wife took notes on the books that you would use to inspire your creative process. Can you tell me about that, getting to that first creative process for your first?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Because you had a couple of books that you had recommended, and
yes, there was one in particular that I know I recommended then called, I know what the other one would be too. So one is called Do the Work by Steven Pressfield.
Yes.
And
we get it.
It's a wonderful book and it's short. And what Steven Pressfield does that I feel like nobody else does is he understands what stops people, because he's somebody who really struggled with his creative demons for a long, long time. He's very candid about this. And he wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance, which was also made into a film. And he talks about resistance, what gets in our way of finishing some creative endeavor. And he almost treats it as, he almost personifies it. It's like this force. And I like that because it makes it something outside yourself that you're fighting against, rather than, worrying about your own, what's wrong with me?
Yes.
Instead, it's, this is resistance. It's like, this is Bill, who just makes things hard all the time or whatever. And I found that extremely helpful. It's just a great message. And I read it at just an incredibly opportune time, I think, when I needed a boost, and I think that really helped me get through.
What's your time frame on getting this one done versus this one?
Okay, so this took forever. It was a side hustle, and plus I didn't know how to write novels.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so there was that thing about
You are an expert.
Actually, this one took a really long time too.
Okay.
So I'm evidently never going to be like Ellen Hildebrand and get a book out every year, because this was supposed to come out in 2024, and it's coming out in 2026. So this one took forever, partly because it was a side hustle.
Right.
I had a job and kids, and I still have kids, but they're in their 20s now. This one I wrote on a contract. So you don't normally do that in
Yeah.
publishing. Well, sometimes people who are writing in like a specific genre might get a 2-book deal.
Yeah.
That wasn't that, but I sold it on an outline. And so I turned it in, and my editor said, I think I want something more like the first one. So,
Thanks.
and evidently that happens really frequently. A friend of mine who writes, it's the same publisher but a different imprint, honest to God, 3 weeks later had the exact same thing happen. She had told them, I've written these kinds of domestic thrillers. This one's a little bit more procedural, but they said, okay, like the outlines, turned it in. They said, we want something more like the first couple.
But you gave you the outline.
You gave them the outline, but you know what? Here's the thing. If your publisher doesn't like it, if your editor doesn't like it, then, well, first of all, they don't have to accept it.
Right.
And second of all, they're not gonna, I mean, even if you manage to fight for it somehow, they're not gonna put any shoulder behind it. And at the time when we had the conversation, she said what she didn't like about it. And we took out an entire narrative, and the kind of the plot went with it. So that was a problem, take out the climax of the novel. And she said, well, what's your response? And I don't get overwrought about things like this. And I said, well, I believe you as a verb, meaning I didn't quite feel what she was saying, but she's really good. And I will tell you, once we finally got this together, this version of Liberty Island, and she didn't know exactly where this was going to go.
Yeah.
She's just working on her own sensibilities. Dead right about everything. She was I am so blessed, because I think another editor might have trotted out what I originally wrote. And this is better. It just is, it coheres a lot better around the themes. I think in many ways it's more interesting. And it wound up being kind of fun to write. I mean, writing about books and attitudes about girls. I'm a product of girls' school education. I was a huge reader. It was my salvation because I was a horrible student, but a voracious reader. And it's about girls and imagination, and about how imagination, the power of imagination, and the importance of imagination, and helping women, and a lack of imagination that I think held women back for a long time. So
You got one last thing. You got some snazzy covers here with nice.
Thank you.
With nice waterfront seats. How was it like to
you.
see the cover match to the story?
Oh my gosh, it was so fantastic. Because authors don't technically have any
did you get
say.
Did you get any say?
Well, I did. I mean, so with Haven Point, they did ask me what kind of cover I imagined.
Because I want to be there, right?
Totally want to be there. They asked me what I had in mind myself.
Yeah.
No guarantees, because authors can have lunatic ideas about covers, and we're not the marketing experts. And they sent me two, and I did tell them what I didn't like. I said, I don't want the photograph of the woman from behind with the hat walking away with the suitcase into the sunset, or sitting in the Adirondack chair with the hat.
Yes.
And so I had, or the photograph of the house, or the whatever. So they did send me two different ideas, and one was this, and one was a photograph. So it was basically saying this, and pretending I had a choice when the other one was exactly what I told them I didn't want. So of course this ended up being the cover. This one is a fantastic story, because this is actually a licensed image from a Maine artist named Alan Claude. And they sent me the full version. This is just there's a horizontal version of this, and he is a digital artist, very well known. He has a studio in Gardner, Maine. He's a lovely, lovely person and really talented. And I assumed when I got it, I said, oh, I must have told them about Alan Claude.
Oh, yeah.
Because I knew, I mean, he does these calendars that people have, and these t-shirts, and then these beautiful, beautiful, really archival quality prints that he sells in his studio. And so I went and looked, because I thought that must be how they knew about him, was from me. I'd never mentioned him before. They just came upon this and licensed his cover. So I finally met him. I hadn't met him in person before, so I met him last summer. And that's unusual. I mean, I never met, you don't meet the cover designers for your books.
I'm sure he's happy too.
He's really happy, and he's just so nice.
Oh,
he's such
great.
a wonderful person, and he has done wonderful things for his little town in Maine. And so I did send him an advanced reader copy of this, and he's got gorgeous work. Alan Claude Galleries, people should go have a look, because he's beautiful. He's very talented. So
thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice speaking
Nice
with
meeting
you.
you too.
Appreciate it.
Patsy, thank you for coming in here to talk. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about this book
Well,
and why I have this cookie.
okay.
Maybe the cookie first, because
Okay.
I want to eat it while you're...
The cookie is in the book, and I tell everyone you have to buy the book to get the cookie, but I'll let you have it anyway. So I like to cook and I like to eat, so. But the cookie is, the protagonist, her name is Alice, and her older sister, Lou, who was schizophrenic, during a psychotic episode, murdered people, and the story is about the other victims. And was Lou a victim because she fell through the cracks? Her sister and her family were blindsided by the way the community treated them. But when they were growing up, they made Sutton cookies with their mother. So, and then the victims who were killed, what about their families?
Right.
So this is a story about the other victims, you know, in a crime that we see every day now,
Right.
with, you know, the mass shootings and everything. And I got the idea from the Las Vegas shooting when I saw the brother of the shooter and how the media treated him on TV. And I still have the picture in my head.
Right.
And I thought, well, what happens to these families?
Right.
And then I read about David Kaczynski and
Yes.
Ted
Right,
Kaczynski,
yeah.
you know, and the Columbine shooters.
Right.
And they all have a story, and they're all victims, and sometimes even the shooter is a victim.
Right.
But this story has redemption, and it hopefully makes people think.
Right.
That's why I wrote it.
What was your time frame of start to finish?
Oh, too long.
Too long.
Yeah. But I wanted to write since I could read. So.
Right. Did you feel like you brought a sense of order to it once you finished the book? Because you're dealing with some stuff in there.
Right. It took a lot of research because everybody said you don't write about something you don't know about. And then I did. And I'm doing it again. And my second book has Boca Grande in it. So, in the beginning. But, you want to do it right.
Yeah.
So, do it right rather than do it fast.
Did you find some uncomfortable things in there when you had to learn all this?
Of course. Reading about schizophrenia.
Yeah.
And wanting to understand it because everybody has this preconceived idea of what it is. And it's very sad. And I found a woman who helped me understand it because of her son, and she gave me so many books. And you want people to understand that we're all humans and we're all flawed, and it's a tragic disease, you know.
And have you found a supportive audience around here for the book endeavor part of it versus the research part of it? Or has that been all alone?
I haven't reached out probably as much as I should.
Right.
So
you just figured it out?
A lot. You know, I took classes and I asked people, but I didn't have this support. I wrote this as a short story, and the woman said, the instructor in the class said, you need to expand on it. And so then when I took a novel class, the woman said, this idea gives me chills. And I go, okay. I'll go.
What is the family? Has the family read it yet?
My family?
Yeah. Or are they surprised it comes from you?
Yeah, well, my youngest daughter gave me, I guess, my best compliment. She didn't realize it. She said, "Mom, I couldn't believe my mom wrote this." And then she said, "I got to a point where I forgot it was my mom that was writing it." I go, "Okay, thanks, Jane."
Good. Well, thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. I'm here with Joyce Woollcott, mystery writer. How do you go from, I saw broadcast?
Yes.
Designer.
Mm-hmm.
So is that like TV sets?
Yeah, no. Actually, I was director of design at Canada's largest television network.
Stop.
And but that's off air. Not a lot of people know what that is. But
that's a big important thing about how it looks.
And that's everything that's not on the screen.
Yeah.
Off air is billboards, posters, annual reports, business cards,
Yeah.
all across Canada. So we actually did design work for the Vancouver Olympics and all kind. Sorry, it's Calgary, isn't it? But anyway, there's so much stuff going on. But we did a lot of the print for stations all across Canada.
Right. So that's two different worlds from that to writing these,
Yes, yeah,
these
it is.
gruesome situations. And
I know. But I always liked mysteries. I always like to say when I was younger, my mom used to say, "I love a good murder," and I was like, "Oh, Mom, you want to watch a comedy or a musical?" I was going, no, a good murder. That's what I like. So I thought, and sure enough, once I got a little older, I started honing in on murder mysteries. Anything, movies like that, and then I realized once I was able to finish work,
Right.
I love my job, but after a while you want to have your own life and travel and stuff. So when we were able to, I decided to leave and do other things.
Yeah.
I thought, I'd love to write a book.
Yeah.
But obviously I thought at the time, I'll just write a mystery book. But you know what? It's not that easy.
Right.
So I had to take a lot of courses.
Right.
I actually did a postgrad course at the Humber School for Writers in Toronto, and did another summer course there. So, and then joined a couple of different.
So I'm thinking with the Canada, you're really in the English tradition.
Yes, that's right. Because when I went to school in Northern Ireland, I was born in Belfast.
Oh, I understand. I should have caught the accent.
Well, it's kind of softened up now. I can bring it out when I want to, but so I went to school there. So and then grew up there, and then I moved to Canada when I was able to.
So, but Canada, it's not like you're from New York City or something like that. I mean, I don't think of. I guess maybe England's the same way. You don't think of.
Yeah, well, we have certainly do have that more of a leaning towards the British grammar and things like that.
Yes.
UK grammar. So, but it's funny you said New York, because the first book I ever wrote, which is still in a drawer somewhere, I think every writer has one of those, was set in New York and Mexico. And the funny thing is that I was on a cruise with my cousins who are all from Northern Ireland, and my cousin was a policeman during the Troubles in Northern Ireland outside Belfast. And he's telling us all these stories. Oh my goodness, I could tell you all kinds of stories. And I'm sitting on the cruise thinking, why am I writing a book about Mexico and New York, both of which I've been to but haven't lived in, when I've got this wonderful resource here and a cousin who's mad as anything and got tons of stories and is really funny. So I decided I'd write some police stuff.
Yeah. Does it put it in order in your head after getting it out and getting these troublesome stories out?
Well, I lived a little bit during the Troubles, and to tell you the truth, you kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I know when I first came to Toronto, there was a bomb scare in a theatre.
Oh my gosh.
Of all the things, and my husband and our friends who were there, the guy comes up and he goes, we'd like you to leave, we've had a phone in, there's been a bomb scare. Well, I was out of there. And my husband and everybody's going, oh, it's just, I go, I'm out of there. I was in the street waiting.
Yeah.
Because, that's the way it is with you if you live over there. But I never really got too much involved in it. It was an inconvenience, certainly,
Right.
but I didn't live where there was a lot of trouble, and it just impacted our lives. We didn't get to go out to bars and discos and stuff.
Right, but a mystery is basically disorder under order.
It is. It's disorder under order. You're absolutely right, and maybe that's my way of dealing with things that have happened, because it really takes time for you to come to somewhere quiet when you realize what it was like for you back then. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you one thing, you never want to have to go through that. Me, I like a quiet life now. I don't really want to deal with things that are unsettling and unnerving, and it's better to have a nice quiet life and live your life.
And you said you've got something else coming up as well as part of it.
Well, I'm writing I have 2 manuscripts written. One's a black comedy set in Ireland. It's about a couple of Irish sisters who are accidental serial killers. And I know. And another one called Island of Grieves, which is a different character from these two books, and I just wanted to write something different. I'm still working on them, editing them.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about them, but I like writing. It's a lot of fun.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Great. I'm here with writer and artist Gail Cleveland. Thank you for taking a few minutes here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's great fun. What is it about revolutionary women?
Well, they had to be so strong, and I just can't imagine what life was back then. This woman lived on the same point of land where I live now, and her husband, in Maine, and her husband took off, left her with a baby and a toddler, and left her there to go fight the Revolutionary War. And imagining that, you know, there was no Walmart. It just really got my inspiration. It just really got things happening for me to write about it. And the little bit of research there was disappointing, but then I'm an artist, so basically her life is a blank canvas, so I can just go anywhere I want. And that's where we are with the book. And we're up on the second one now.
Second one, Settlers by the Sea.
Yeah.
And how? We're in 1776 for the first one.
Oh, earlier than that.
Earlier than that.
When they got up there 5 years or so before the war. And then I'm hoping to keep going through the 8 years of the war. I have more books in me for about this, Zelphia and Ephraim Haynes. They were real people that lived a couple hundred years before me.
Yeah, and as a painter, I see you solved the problem of what to put on the cover?
My cover, right?
Yeah.
In fact, that was my first 5-star review. I was so excited. My first review was 5 stars, and it said, "I received my book. I'm so excited. The cover is beautiful. I can't wait to read it. 5 stars."
That's that's the purpose of a good piece of art on the cover.
Right, that's important.
So then you also brought in this thing that we all have.
This was my COVID project. When they told us all to stay home and do nothing for 2 weeks, after 4 hours, I would lose my mind. And
right.
These sketches helped me through COVID. So I pushed to have it published during COVID because I thought I could help other people through. And I think it worked.
Yeah, no, and it's not necessarily children's. I guess children can color it too, but
all ages.
All
yeah.
ages.
Mm-hmm.
They're wonderful sketches.
40 illustrations in all.
Do you almost cut them out and frame them, eh?
They're perforated, and so yeah, you can cut them out and frame them. Some people don't even color them; they frame them black and white.
Very good. So, you've had a long relationship with this library.
I love this library.
Tell me why.
Well, I collect library memberships, and I have 3 now, and it's really important to me. I feel like I'm very rich in library cards.
Yeah.
Why is this library? This is such a gathering place, and I've painted here many, many times. Of course, there's the books, and just the friendly faces. It's always a welcoming place.
Good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to the library for hosting this event. It's so much fun.
I'm here with Susan Hanafee, which is so much fun.
It's always fun.
Always fun. And you're here in the supportive artistic and writerly community of Boca Grande.
Yes.
You do a lot to support it as well as write in it. Tell me how long you've been here.
I actually moved from Indiana to Florida in, I think it was 2012. And then moved onto the island, lived here for about 8 years. And now I live off island and also in the retirement community in Sarasota where half of old Boca Grande lives. And so I split my writing duties between Sarasota and Boca Grande.
Were you doing any of this when you were back in Indiana as a newspaper?
Writing books?
Yeah.
No, because I was an 80-hour-a-week person. And
right.
so there was no time to really do writing. So one of the things I wanted to do when I came to Florida was to start writing. And my first book is, Leslie's voice is like 98% accurate, but it's set in Indiana. And that's the book that has all the good sex scenes in it. When I tell people that, they rush to get a copy. The rest of them are
mysteries. But it's the same character, Leslie. And Wes, who works at the Boca Beacon, but his name isn't Wes. I mean, the paper's name is the Island Sun. So, yeah. He's a little different from you, but he's still a good guy.
He's still a good guy. It's kind of a crazy place, and a lot of intrigue under the in the things. And then this most recent book you've been working on is your short essays as well. That's a departure from this land.
It is, except
not from your newspaper.
This is the third of my sort of short essays or blogs. Right. And what happens is when I get about 60 of them, I put them together in a little booklet just for fun. And my friend Bob Elliott told me that they really work well in the bathroom. So that's where they usually end up, I guess.
Yeah. And then this one takes, is particularly interesting as well because it takes on a bit of Florida history as well, or sort of a riff on a bit of Florida history. Is that correct? Or was that just an allusion to it?
It's actually recent history. This
the Mackle.
Oh, Barbara Mackle, yes. Actually, Barbara Mackle was buried alive in Georgia, but because she was a Florida person,
right?
You could make the connection that she was actually, or that someone could be buried alive down here. My mind goes strange places.
So you're in a big city like Indianapolis, where there's actually lots of stuff like that going on. And I guess maybe Florida now there is a lot going on.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on in Florida all the time. And I think, it's because I'm not working per se, I'm not going to a job.
Right.
I have more opportunity to observe people and to observe some of the crazy things that are going on. And just spending a day in Boca Grande, I get ideas. And I have to be careful because I have this one friend that whenever he sees me, he goes the other way. Really, seriously. And he told me, I don't want to talk to you. So what can you do? I mean, I try to be fair and not to make anybody feel bad, but sometimes you have to have a good story in there.
But doesn't everybody want to be immoralized in a novel?
Apparently not, this guy. Makes you wonder what he's been up to. Yeah.
And then tell me about this library. You've done a lot.
The library is a great place. I mean, when I first came down here, I was like shocked, really. This little island would have such an amazing place.
Right.
And of course, it has a wonderful history with the Amorys. And I'm going to be honest and tell you that the little house next to the library features in my next novel, as does the library, and the CEO of the library, who falls in love with a mystery writer who comes to town. Question is he a good guy or a bad guy? So the library's kind of always been part of my thinking, and I love coming here and being around the people that run it, and I feel very supportive of it.
Thank you very much.